Thank you. I'm really excited to talk to you about how to take project management to become the best version of yourself, or the best version of who you can be. And so, a while ago when I was younger, I used to be a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I have a motorcycle. I still have it today. I haven't done this in a while. But what I used to do to get a thrill was to do stoppies. Do you know what stoppies are? So stoppies are, you get the motorcycle up to about 70, 80 miles an hour, and you slam on the front brakes, but only about 80%. And you kick up the rear end, and you kind of come up on the front wheel and basically ride it till you stop. It's more thrilling than a wheelie because you have absolutely no control. You're up to nature to be able to make sure that you stay balanced and you actually get through it. So one day after church, because I was a good Christian boy, I went to church and then I was like, I'll go out and do some stoppies. And so I was out on the road, did a stoppie, but this one day I must have hit something because after I had gotten up there, the next thing I knew I was on the ground, sliding across the ground. And I actually honestly thought, this is so much fun. I thought somebody ought to make it like a ride on this. But I did like I was supposed to. I got in my position and I was sliding across the ground. And I thought to myself, well, I better get up because if there's any cars on the road, they're going to run over me because they're not going to see a kid sliding across the ground like that, right? But then I remembered in my head, my brother always told me, if ever you fall off your motorcycle, make sure you count to 10 before you stand up. And so I didn't do that, and I put my boot down. I had a boot on, and I had a shirt on, which, by the way, my arm kind of fell down, and so I lost all the skin on my arm here. So I had lost all the skin on my arm. But but at the time, I was having too much fun. So I was sliding across the ground, I put my foot down, and when you're going from 70 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour feels like you're just sitting still, right? But you're still going 20 miles an hour, right? So when I put my boot down, I started flipping head over heels, ended up like permanently injuring my shoulder, and then I stopped and I sat there for a little bit, got up, I saw that you can even see I don't even have some freckles there. Even lost some freckles permanently. But anyway, lost the freckles on my arm, and I thought to myself, when this adrenaline wears off, this is going to hurt really, really bad. So to give you a little bit of a background about myself, so I was technology. So I studied as an electrical engineer at a small school in Illinois, and then transitioned immediately to work for Caterpillar. I worked for Caterpillar in international telecommunications, and so that started my project management career. So I've been doing project management for around 26 years, so quite some time. Then transitioned from there to a nonprofit institute where I was an IT director and a program manager. Program management is a little bit different than project management because you take a lot of projects and put them together. And specifically, I worked at a church. I worked with little kids, and so I put on some amazing projects. Like I didn't, but the group put on some amazing projects. We had some that there were over 5,000 people that would show up to these events over the course of 3 hours. So really, really fun, exciting. Make giant dinosaurs and all this sorts of fun stuff. But anyway, then transitioned and came down here to Texas. When I came to Texas, I ended up working in downtown Bryan, actually right over there at a small company where I was a construction project manager, but also the IT director over there. So I got some construction experience building a building over there. And then went to A&M. When I was at A&M, I worked in the International Ocean Discovery Program, where I managed the PMO that was over there. PMO is the Project Management Office. So we had lots of different projects. I had a ship that is about a 500-foot ship, Joyce Resolution. And so be careful that you don't rely too heavily on managed. You want to give AI the plan now, and then let AI give you a response of saying, hey, here's the thing that you want this, and then you're like, I consider that. But I'll consider that. And so what is project management? Project management is any task that you have. The more you iterate on AI, the better it has a scope, so a purpose behind which you do not trust, right? So it could be anything from sending a dog to the moon. And so then finally, how do we become your favorite doing? Well, one thing I would encourage you that as you learn things, as you building whatever you want as you go. So it can be a small scale all the way to this big scale. Share with others. It's important to share with others. And so how do you do this? Get a mentor. Always find a mentor that you can. Every project you become like your mentor. Typically, when you think of a project, you think of you don't. You take from your mentor you. Well, what's the time frame in which I'm going to get rid of this? But there's so much because you are not your mentor. Mentors have good advice, and they apply to you, but you may not either. And there's the we should always do that kind of understanding people. You should be encouraging them. What are the risks that are involved in? And then there's actually putting together a policy plan, okay, so, but you have
you do the
milestones
same thing that
everybody else
and
does,
you have
you break down structures, like you build a task, and everybody has a schedule. So there's all this really fun stuff if you want to achieve the possible, you have to get outside. And once you have the plan together, then you actually execute and say, this is what's possible, this is all I can do. Get that out of your vocabulary, that you're going back and forth so much more than you really working. And I was sure that when I was working out, right before COVID, right before this heart failure, I was most people don't understand this, but in one of these phases, and I thought, and for me, it was just like 5 pounds of first, I would work up to 5 pounds, I would add 5 more pounds. There's all of these different, no idea how strong I was. Components. And so I looked at, you can go online and see used into in comparison to other people. But I'm not here to talk to you about professionally. I'm here to talk to you about changing yourself for my. And so with any project, you have to start right base. Because I never, what's the baseline of our lives? You know, and it was just personally, it was just me. And I was just, for students, they have names, they have how much social for humans you can be. If you stop it, compare yourself with other people and start, but then they have work, and they have all these little, and as we get older, as you all know, it gets worse, right? Then you have families, you have commitments, this is that house, your work, everything. So life is completely chaotic. So Bruce Lee always talks about the oak tree, is that the brain is kind of like a person that's an oak tree. It's not. It's very firm, like a boardroom. They won't work. Everyone is screaming. They're very, person that's screaming the loudest is one leaving. Nobody's gonna. Like for example, say you have just great times are good. Something that you want to take when trouble times. Joe needs his spreadsheet card, right? So because they're not Joe. I totally forgot about it. I got an able to. So you're running out the door, and as you're running out the door, what he would say is toe on the corner of the door, like snaps, right? But when the hurricane comes, the will prevents. So you run to your car, and you jump in your car, and you slam the door, and so what does that mean for us? That means that we still have that same foundation, and still have that same, and so you're sitting in the car, you're like, why was I even in the car? We still have that same trunk and that foundation. Screaming the loudest, we're never going to stop. Your hand is never going to stop growing. Because all the brain is the brain is just, and now this interpreter, everything, all of these, it's a sensory, because our brains only have a limited capacity. We're only going to take the senses coming from your fingers, the senses coming from your toes. There's senses coming from your hand, just got pushed through the door. And so all it's doing is interpreting it. And so back to the story about the motorcycle. So I got done sliding across the ground. I had no reason to let go more than. And I thought to myself, knowing this concept, so how do you become the best version of yourself? It's myself. I can't tell you, not feel, only you can tell me. And I'm like, I'm not lose, right? So I got on my motorcycle to challenge you, to try to tweak yourself, to become the hospital the entire time. So my religious background is I love the pain. And so in my Christian belief, because I knew as soon as that adrenaline wore off, and I was going to take me up, it was going to be painful. And in that time, and to tell you the absolute truth, when I got to the hospital, I would be pulling out the closest version of that I actually felt. Through my actually felt knowing, and I'm never going to get what was getting right. I'm going to have to wait as they were pulling the cinders out. But the next day, everything I can while I'm here. That day, it actually worked. I was actually able to convince my brain what I wanted to do. So our brains are interesting though, because we retain 80% of what we see, we retain 20% of what we read, and 10% of what we hear. But when you think about it, how much of your cognitive activity are you controlling throughout the day? Really, it's only like 10%. It's like 90% is subconscious automation that's happening throughout the day. So a lot of what you're doing throughout the day is subconscious. Right? And so that's interesting because when you look at where's the subconscious in the right brain, left brain being the creative side of the brain, left brain being the more logical side, it's more in the right side of the brain. Your creative side of the brain is where your subconscious is, where your characters develop, where a lot of your genetic coding is in, and that's all in the right side of the brain. But where do we teach people? I'm up here in front of you right now, and I'm telling you information. But for you to retain that, you've got to get it over to the other side of your brain. But the way our brains work is it starts with the creative side and then goes to the logical side. And so we have to fight to get it from the logical side to the creative side. So what do? So you're in a class, you're trying to learn something, you write down little tricks because you're trying to get it into your subconscious. You're trying to get it into your long-term memory so that you can actually apply it and use it. So that's a challenge that we have to work through when we're going through all this. So how do we do it? Well, we need structure. So let's use project management. So how do we structure using project management? Well, we can start by saying that we can initiate with a light chart. So we can sit down and say, okay, here's the vision that I want for my life. Here's the goals that I want to have. You know, this year I want to learn how to play the piano. I want to learn I want to read 200 books. You know, you have to read like a book a week? Is that what it is? How many? Yeah, like a book a week, almost a book a week to be able to read 200 books. You know, and so that's crazy. How can you do it? But you want to do it, and so project management can help you though, because it can show you that you can do things like you can mitigate the risk. The risk is that you won't be able to do it because you don't have time. And so you can use project management to mitigate that. And so maybe instead what you do is you read summaries of books. So you can get 200 summaries of a book in that amount of time, right? So what you do is you create your plan. You put your milestones together, you say every week this is what I'm going to do, every month this is what I'm going to do. Here's my schedule on how I'm going to actually make it happen, right? And then you actually execute. And this is the fun part. If you have a plan in place, you don't have to worry about the plan, right? So if you have a plan in place and you know on your schedule it's going to remind you, you know, I got to play the piano today. I've got to read my summary this morning. You don't have to worry about it. It brings so much stress. It takes so much stress off your life of what you have to do, because you know you just follow the plan and you're going to execute what you need for that next year. You're going to continuously grow. You're going to continuously improve. And then I would challenge you to be able to bring in those extra things into your life that you don't normally do. You know, those things that are outside of the norm. My wife and I recently, we went to this high ropes course in Houston. I am terrified of heights. I am like terrified. Like, I'm not afraid of much, but heights, I am terrified. I would rather fly up the front of a motorcycle going 70 miles an hour than be on a high ropes course. But I thought, you know what, that's something that I don't want to do, so I'm going to do it. And so we went out there, and it was an amazing experience, but I'll tell you, I will never forget that experience, because it was something out of the norm. So I would encourage you, as you're executing your plan, make sure you step out of the norm and you try those things. Then monitoring and controlling is iterating. It's going through and it's checking, is my plan what I want it to be? Because has anybody had a plan for life and it changed? I mean, I think we all have, you know? And so at any time in life, you want to be able to change it and adapt it, and it's okay to do that. You know, but you want to stick to having a plan, right? And I always said, it's kind of like throwing a rock out there and aiming for it, knowing that you're never going to make it to that rock. You know, you're going to have to take a rock along the way and throw it over there, because that's what your new plan is, right? And then finally, closure. And during COVID, and actually while I was a part of Toastmaster, I got congestive heart failure from COVID, and I got on the heart transplant list. Almost died. They gave me 2 years to live, and so I was getting towards the end, and I was like, you know what? It'd be fun to make my own eulogy. It'd be fun to plan out my own funeral. So I got a chance to do that. I got a chance to plan out like what my casket was going to be, where I'm going to be buried. And let me tell you, there's so much freedom in that. I told my wife that I wanted them to play Kickstart My Heart during the funeral. I don't think she liked that too much, but I thought it was funny. So, but anyway, the point is that have closure, build closure into your life, so you don't have to worry about it, so that your family's protected, so that your loved ones are protected, right? So now that we have a plan in place, so the plan is the strength of what you're following, right? Then you want to look at what's personal mastery. Personal mastery is filling in the gaps. It's looking at what are the gaps in my life, and how can I fill those in so that I can constantly become a better person. In a slow pace, you know, you're not talking about making major changes. You're talking about making small incremental, small iterative changes. And so the things that we can think about, if we narrow it down to just a couple things, is our physical and spiritual and our mental, right? That you're constantly working on physical, you know, your exercise. What do you want to do to improve your exercise? Just a small little bits at a time. What do you want to do to improve like your nutrition, what you're eating? You know, what do you want to do to improve like spiritually how you're doing? What do you want to do to improve like mentally? You want to read books, you want to take classes, you want to get a degree, you know, and so because you have a plan in place, you don't have to worry about the plan. And so you can slowly incorporate those things and slowly improve them. Back a long time ago, before I was married, when I was traveling with Caterpillar, I was only in town for like a week at a time. I was in Latin America most of the time, and then sometime in the Asia Pac rim doing travels. And so when I was in town, I was like, people would say, "Hey, you want to come out and do this with me? You want to come to Chicago with me?" And so I was like, "Is that good for me? I don't know." So as the good little engineer, what I did is I created a spreadsheet. And I created a plan, and I weighted on that, and I thought, how good is this 0 to 10 for me physically? How good is it 0 to 10 for me spiritually? And how good is it 0 to 10 mentally? And then depending on where the threshold hit, I would say, I'm sorry, I can't, or yes, I can. And so I based it all on a calculation.